Metal Up World, this is CJ of CJOrtiz.com and MetalMotivation.com. Welcome to this first episode for this week's series called Surviving Your Dark Season. This I show the first episode of every video series I do in my Life Domination online coaching program for free. To learn more about this and other series that I've done, please visit the link below. But all this week, we're talking about surviving your dark season. You know, when you are humbled, life has a way of bringing you very, very low. And if you're in a dark season right now, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you've survived dark seasons in the past, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I've been through them myself. Nobody's excluded from the dark seasons of life. Nobody's excluded from the challenges of life. But how do you know whether you're in a dark season? How do you know when you're in such a season? Trust me, you'll know. When you're surrounded by what feels like thick darkness and the devils seem to be howling in your mind, it's when you can't find your footing and you realize that at any moment you could be knocked back down. Have you ever been like that before? Are you in such a season right now? Maybe you're not in a debilitating season, but you're certainly in a challenging one physically. Maybe in a relationship, maybe emotionally, maybe battling again, anxiety, depression, or whatever it may be. Maybe you're unemployed. Maybe you're dealing with certain addictions. Maybe you're lost some loved ones recently. Whatever the setback may be, you know altogether too well what it's like to be in a dark season. And you look around you and you see everybody else. Everybody else seems to be so happy. Everybody else doesn't appear to have the same challenges that you do. And you really begin to feel isolated. You really begin to feel alone. The challenge with your mindset that you've got to be watchful for is the fact that you can start thinking your situation is unique. Whenever you start thinking that maybe you're the only one, that's when your mind is going into a very, very bad place. Why is that? Because if your situation is unique, then you're not going to be open to principles, methods, or wisdom or resources that could change you. Because what happens is unbelief comes to the surface. Skepticism comes to the surface. Doubt comes to the surface. And you start to question whether anything is really going to be able to help you. Why? Because you always seem to be battling with this. Everything in your life you interpret as unique. But I have news for you. The world has been around for a very long time, and billions of people have existed on this planet. But guess what? You're nothing unique. That's right. You got to swallow it, man. Your life is not unique in any way. What you are challenged with right now has been faced by people before. What you're faced with right now sometimes can be nothing compared to what others have been faced with before. Am I trying to shame you by saying that? Absolutely not. Again, what I'm after is any mentality that suggests your situation is unique. Because again, if you start thinking your situation is unique, you are now more neglectful, more obstinate, more hardened of heart, more resistant to wisdom, more resistant to solutions. You become less open because you keep justifying the fact that your situation is unique. But I got to tell you, your situation is not unique. There are resources, there are things that you have at your disposal that could change your life, things that could fix what's going on in you right now, things that could push you through this particular season. But you've got to believe it. You've got to first accept the fact that your situation is simply not that unique. Yes, it may be challenging. Yes, what's happened to you may be absolutely devastating. You could be looking at me right now and saying, CJ, man, I hear you, bro, but you just don't understand what I've been dealing with. You don't understand what people have done to me. You don't understand the hurt that I've experienced. No, I don't. I don't know any of it. I've never tasted anything that you've tasted necessarily. I've tasted my own, but I don't know what it's like to live in your skin. But you don't know what it's like to live in my skin. What does it matter, though? The point is that you certainly don't want to stay where you are. You certainly don't want to remain where you are. So now what? Sometimes I'll see people comment to me on Facebook and they describe their situation. And the thing that I understand, I have compassion for them, but I just want to answer and saying, okay, now what? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Are you going to endure another day of torment? Are you going to stay where you are? Or are you going to take the steps to start to offset your pain, to start to climb back out of the situation that you're in? Otherwise, what is the point? You could tell me about your problem and I could give you sympathy. Good. Now what? You need 2 days of sympathy. You need 3 days of sympathy. You need 3 years of sympathy. How much sympathy is it going to take to get you to take the steps that are necessary to get out of where you are? You've got to have that value for your life. You've got to know that you're so much more capable of anything you've ever done in the past. The obstacles that you face are only large in your own mind. You have the ability. You have the emotional, physical, spiritual, if you will. You have every bit of the wherewithal to overcome anything that you're facing. The objective here, I know, when you're in a really, really bad season, is so much more than just overcoming. For right now, all you can think about is surviving. Well, that's why I've titled this message series, Surviving Your Dark Season. And that's where you will get empathy. That's where you will receive some understanding in this case, because I know it can be difficult. I went through it myself. I went through one of the most devastating experiences a few years ago that I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. I had no idea you could even feel that way. I had no idea you could be so emotionally and psychologically paralyzed as I was during that time. But during the whole time, I was still doing what I was doing. I was still writing. I was still producing. I had to keep myself productive during that difficult season. And it was hard, man. It's the hardest thing I've ever went through. I'll never go through it again, God forbid. But I had to survive before I could thrive. And that's the point. You have got to survive until your strength returns, until you get to that place again where you start feeling like yourself again. And you realize, wow, this was just a season. It wasn't something permanent, and it won't be. You can make the difference. You can make the changes. You've got to start first believing it, and then start to take the action steps necessary to do it and survive and push through the dark season, no matter how dark it is. Can you dig that? If you'd like to see the rest of these videos, then I would encourage you to sign up for my Life Domination online coaching program. I do this each week, 5 days a week. All these videos are shown in a private Facebook group that is administered by me. I'll be working with you, and the only other people that are in there are people just like yourself, committed subscribers who want to make a difference in their own life. And so there's a lot of encouragement, a lot of building up, no negativity, man, no trolling, none of that stuff, just mutual reinforcement, building each other up, sharing your personal stories. It's an awesome, awesome experience. It's only $19.97 a month, and that's less than 70 cents per day. So what a tremendous investment in your life. It's the online coaching program. So check it out right now at metalmotivation.com/life domination coaching. And I'd love to see you there. This is CJ, the Metal Motivator. And remember, in whatever you do, don't suck. Metal up.